Well, welcome to another episode Out of the Blank Podcast. I'm here with Dave.
Let's go.
That's Riley. Welcome back to the show, Riley, I guess. Dave, it's your first time on, man, but you've come highly recommended by Mr. Riley himself from Plunge Podcast.
That means a lot. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much, good sir. How are you? First off, let's start there.
I'm hanging in. It's been a weird morning, and the construction behind me is really getting me going. I'm telling you, they're not doing anything. I feel like they're just picking up lumber and just tossing it on the ground. Like, I did something. I'm like, congratulations, but you're blocking my driveway.
That's fair. Now, did you hire this? Is this for your house or apartment or anything like that, or just someone else?
I happen to live in a small community of elderly folks, and I feel like they have nothing better to do than either golf or just fix the neighborhood or bitch about other people's homes to the point they call someone to show up to your property and fix your home for you. And you're like, what's the issue here? I don't understand. Do you want to fight? I can take you down. It's like, I was boxing in 1986. And you're like, yeah, it's 2021. I will knock you out.
Grandpa, hear me out though. I mean, that's a pretty good life, right? If you can just golf all day and just hire someone to do construction for you.
I feel like, is that what you aspire to be? Is that how you know when life's complete? I always ask everyone that comes on the show, like, what do you think life is? Maybe life is getting to the point you live to be a ripe old age where you can just complain about younger people that are living in your community. We might be those old people one day if we don't get like hit by a bus or robbed by a homeless person.
They're out there. I mean, there's Manchester, New Hampshire. There's plenty of homeless people. I mean, we've got one feels like every street. I mean, life to me, that's a great question. If you really think about it, what is life, right? For me, it's making others around you happy. I've always thought of it like this. You can work. So let's say you live up to like 75, right? That's the average male species lifeline.
So the statistic is there's about, I think it's 647,942 days in an average lifespan of 71 years.
Pretty good. Some good math.
I had that math number down to like a fact, like I could just rattle it off like it's nothing. But then it's been so long since I've used that because, like, I don't know, it just depends on how right now I'm stuck on the China topic. So I've been talking about that a lot on the show, but go back to what you were saying.
Dude, we can talk about China after if you want, man. I got a couple things on there.
So guess what? The guy who was on Joe Rogan, his name is Josh Rogan. He followed me on Twitter. So hopefully I'm getting him on the show.
All right.
So
that's awesome, man. Congrats.
I got so many questions to talk about China. I want to know why, what's happening over there. Did Bruce Lee really get killed by the triads? I have no clue.
I just love life if you really think about it. But life to me is just making people happy. It's about who shows up at your funeral, who loving cares for you. It's also about making a difference, right? If you can help out people in any way, shape or form, whether it be small things around your community or running a business that helps out people, that employs people, anything like that, as long as you're doing something, you're doing good at life. As long as you're doing something that helps out society as a whole and just kind of furthers it as we go on, sort of say.
Very
that would be life
deep.
to me.
It's very deep and true, to be honest with you, because if you look at the people nowadays, what do they consider worth? Worth is what your YouTube content is. Worth is what your subscribers are. Worth is how much you make in your bank account, but no one considers the worth of, are you happy? Are you kind to other people? I think during the pandemic, especially, it was like looking inside of yourself and trying to find out what you really wanted to do. Hopefully people did that, but some people just kind of waited for things to open back up. And it was like, I think one thing I've always inspired in my life to always be is I'm never a good person. I'm never a bad person. I'm just Robbie. So when people meet me, like I just got out of my doctor's office before this appointment, and every time I go and see her, I just say a bunch of random things where I'm like, you're using neuro-linguistic programming to try and convince me to sway your side. She's like, I'm just telling you that you have a herniated disc. And I'm like, that's what you say. But the MRI chart says it's my lower lumbar L1 to S5. And she was like, that's the actual, like, here's your spine. And she's like, she just ends up grabbing me like by the shoulders and walking me out to the main lobby. She's like, he's yours now. And then just sits me down. I'm like, that's all I wanted.
Taking I'll get paid enough for this. Yeah.
She was like, "Why don't you ever check your messages in your My Chart?" And I was like, "Because I keep forgetting my fucking password." And it's like you always got to add a number or add a symbol. It's like you're
Yeah.
locked out. And I'm like, okay.
Can we talk about the evolution of passwords for a second? How far we've come. So remember back in the day, I mean, I'm 24. Yeah, I'm 24. So when the internet came around, I was like 10 or 11 around that time when I was actually using it. Passwords like, okay, just type a word and that's your password. Now it's like, okay, type in a word, special cases, characters, some letters. Oh, and by the way, download an app on your phone. We need two-factor verification. Where do you think it's going to go from here?
I don't know because I'm still confused at why I still need 4 numbers to unlock my fucking bank card. That does not make any sense. Where that's the shortest password that you can make. But if I'm trying to make an account on RuneScape or some shit, it's like we're gonna need a number, we're gonna need a symbol, and then we're gonna need this. I'm like, I was logging into my Paylocity. I had to make an account because I never had one because now we're all doing direct deposit at work.
Yeah.
My bank PIN is 4 numbers.
Oh
The
yeah.
the Paylocity thing is like you need a cap locks, you need a symbol, you need a digit, you need a bunch of things, and it has to be at least 10 letters long. I'm like, I, I, I just got my social security number like down in my head now. Like so when people
Got
call,
that
they're like,
cap.
what's your social? I'm like, here it is. And I rattle it off like it's nothing. Like I just literally ask people to ask me what my social is so I could just shoot it at them. And I'm not doing it on this podcast.
That's fair. Yeah, I understand that. I won't be doing it either. Maybe when we're done recording, we can exchange socials if you want.
My
But
identity's already been stolen. Apparently, to Riley, I look like working man's Tom Holland, which I'm taking as a compliment because it fits.
he did tell me beforehand. I was like, tell me about what's going on here. He's like, he looks like a Southern man's Tom Holland. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, I don't. He's like, don't tell him that though, because
I'm
he
wearing
doesn't
a
like that.
fucking Hawaiian shirt. Do I look Southern to you?
You do look like an older Tom Holland. Like if Tom Holland grew up like yeah, he's laughing in the background. he's, he's having fun. If Tom Holland grew a beard, like a little patch right there, and I feel like, are you a military man?
No,
Okay, I feel like you've served. You look like the kind of guy who can see some shit.
I think it's because my haircut. I got my haircut because it was
Okay.
like when I start wearing a hat is when people know like you probably need a haircut. But the woman, she was like, I can take you before my because now with COVID, you have to get an appointment
Yeah.
for everything. But every
Yeah.
time I go in there and I keep going back because I'm too much of a lazy like person to go anywhere else or spend over $20 for a haircut.
Yeah.
And I'm
I'm
just like,
what?
you're open, cut my hair. She's like, I have an appointment, but she likes to sit in her car and drink coffee. So I'll do you real quick. And I was like, sweet. Yo, she started cutting, didn't even ask what I wanted, but she did it nice. I was like, yo, I like it.
That's awesome.
But I
Those
couldn't
are the
tip her.
best, right? You couldn't?
No, because they got a new card system. And she was like, oh, yeah, we can't tip on card anymore. You'd have to bring in cash and not everybody
What?
knows about it. So she's like, get me on the next time. And I was like, okay. Walk down to the dollar store right across the street, freaking got cash back and walked right back in there. I was like, here you go. She's like,
Good.
thank you.
Good man. Dude, that is why you can't tip on a card. What kind of business is that?
Well, it's like when someone used to come up and say, do you have Apple Pay? And you're like, where the fuck are you from? And then now every business is doing Apple Pay. It's like sooner or later, it's going to be like you have to give your fingernails as cash, I think.
Are you a big Bitcoin guy? Have you been following the news around that?
No, but I'm getting into it. And I have a buddy coming on to tell me all about it because I'm so confused. There's Dogecoin, Bitcoin, Tesla coin. I'm like, is there old Mario coins like I could pick up on the street or
It's crazy. I mean, I'm wondering if we're ever going to use it. I know some places around me have been using Bitcoin now. They have Bitcoin ATMs that you can withdraw money out of, but I I don't see it going anywhere. I think internationally, I think it's a great thing internationally. If you don't want to convert your US dollars to yen or whatever, rubies, that a thing, rubles, you know. Um I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do.
I got really scared at the idea because I mean, cash at this point is probably phased out. And I think they kind of locked that in with the pandemic was like, don't use cash, you can contaminate. And then all these businesses went card where now card is super normal. And
Yeah.
it's like eventually, if you put it all on your phone or you have this digital wallet, I mean, I heard some guy explaining to me it before, and he was telling me like you're basically a digital wallet. Like you have all your currency locked in somewhere, your bank account, for instance. What happens if you just checked it one day and it was zero? And I was like, fuck, you really don't realize how fragile that is if some dude could just hack into your account or get into your system and do that. It's like the same people with pensions.
Yeah.
There's a corporation that's keeping your pension, and whatever they fund their pension into is their own business properties to be able to do so. Is when I was telling you about like the I bet on the China thing. There's
Yeah.
plenty of businesses that hold your pension or whatever pension of someone's out there, and they're funding all these crazy corporations that are doing like slave camps and stuff. And it's like, what? You start to realize how minuscule you are in your own life, where the only thing you can really affect is like things around you. Like if I plant a flower in my backyard,
Yeah.
it's going to affect maybe my neighbors if they see a flower in my backyard. Like you don't. I think people try and think really globally, and that's the whole recycle movement. But I'm like, you have to think to the basis of what you can actually affect. Like everybody hoarding gas right now. There was a Hummer that exploded because a dude filled up so many gas tanks into his car and his Hummer exploded. And someone's like, this fucking guy. I'm like, I don't get it. Like someone put up a tweet and I couldn't tell if it was a joke. And this is probably where I might rant. But
Dude, go for it, man.
she was like, guys, all the pumps were filled and I had to get diesel gas in my Prius. Don't do that because now my car's not working and I had to call AAA. And I'm like, I get it because I mean, if you don't have that, I mean, a lot of people don't know how to put oil in their car. A lot of people don't know how to do certain things, but just the simple concept where it's like, do you want people to have more control than that? Like, I mean, at that point, I'm wondering if that can she do anything else at that point? I mean, that works. That's not just I'm not saying just women. I'm saying men, anybody can.
Yeah.
The intelligence of the world isn't exactly at this mass superiority we probably think. I mean, God, if there is this higher being looking down on us, is probably just like
Shaking his head. He's like, God damn it. What have I done?
I created you to do I gave you fucking birds and you made chicken wings. Like
Yeah.
I gave you this beautiful animal that you can enjoy, you could decorate, you could do all these things, and you made fucking fast food out of it. Like, and I don't get it. And then you're shooting each other at a Popeyes drive-through for a chicken sandwich. Like,
Yeah.
mm,
It's very what's the right word for it? When I was growing up, I always thought I had like rosy colored cheeks and like rose like I was like, oh, the world's gonna be fantastic. And as I'm getting older now, I'm like, wow, there are some dumb people out there, man. There are some real. I love how the Hummer exploded, by the way, for gas shortage. Who drives Hummers anymore?
CEOs of business corporations.
They're stupid.
The
Dumb.
people that probably fight other people who are trying to get like cancer medication.
Sounds about sounds about
Like big tobacco company lawyers.
sounds about right. Driving their nice like yellow Hummer, nice black Hummer.
Well, what would you drive?
What would I drive if I was a CEO corporate?
Or just if you could have any car in the world, what would you drive?
Tesla, 100% a Tesla. I'm
Why?
like a Tesla diehard though. I'm not like an Elon Musk diehard. I he says some dumb shit sometimes, but um, I love the idea of it looks sleek. It can self drive. It's supposedly clean. I don't know about that, but it's better than pumping emissions in the air.
But do you want someone to have that much control over you? Because like the more we talk about auto driving, I'm like, if people can hack into your RuneScape account,
Oh yeah, they could
they,
definitely hack into your car.
yeah, and crash you. So I'm like, I'm wondering, like back in the day, they used to put a pipe bomb in your car. I prefer that over some dude crashing me into a wall when I can't control my Tesla because I see that as more as a manly act. Thank you for putting a pipe bomb in the tailpipe of my car where it
Yeah.
got like that one dude that had a pipe bomb explode in his car. They put it under the seat of his driver's seat. So the
Oh,
pipe bomb exploded in his ass and he
right.
lived for like 4 hours after it happened. He basically just bled out of his ass. I'm like, I prefer that than you read an article about, well, Robbie was driving his Tesla 65 miles down a highway and just decided to veer left. And then that sounds like a bitch move, in my opinion.
It is a bitch move, but I'm a big proponent of give people individual freedom, let them make the choices they want to do. It's like if you want to give someone $1,000, I'm a big fan of like give someone $1,000, let them see how they spend it. That determines pretty much who they are as a person. They take that 1,000 and they go to fast food, strip clubs, anything with like very fast gratification. like what's that word? Dopamine, anything that gets your dopamine going very fast. You probably don't want to trust them with anything huge, right? Because like, oh, the money's going to be gone in a second. But if you see that person who takes that 1,000 and invest it, like, okay, I can trust this person. Or if you see a person who takes the money and buy something nice for their family or something like that for people who are struggling, trustworthy. I'm a big proponent of that. In the case of a Tesla, if I die, I die, as Kirk Cousins would say. But I would love a Tesla. Not because of the self-driving. That is cool though. You gotta admit it's cool.
It's interesting. I mean, just depends on if you're going to be that guy that's like, well, I can have a couple beers because my car is going to drive me home. Then I'm like, you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah. That's actually just spitting down at people when you do that. No, I've always thought of it as like if the Tesla's driving for you, because think about it. How much time per day do Americans drive to work? Let's say commute's like an hour. So that's an hour of your time gone, right? So you get 24 hours in a day. It's an hour gone. You're paying attention driving. If the car can do that for you, you have pretty much a free hour. You can study for a next meeting or work, something like that, or you can talk to your loved ones or something like that. You're gonna have that case where Joe Schmo gets hacked and Joe Schmo runs into the opposite side of the freeway. Um, but I think if let's ask this question now.
Well, hold on. You're thinking like most people who are creating amazing inventions think when they first started off, but it was like the
Yeah.
idea of the Neuralink, for instance.
Yeah.
They were like, you could do amazing things. You're going to be able to talk to someone with your fucking mind, and they might not even speak the same language as you, but now you can cut down that border of the language barrier where you can learn Japanese because you have Google Translate in your head. And people are like, fund it. That sounds amazing. But then the first week it comes out, people are just going to be looking up porn in the back of their fucking head because they don't have to walk
Oh yeah.
downstairs to their laptop, put their socks on to walk downstairs. There's some fucking dude out there like, why would I do that? Why would I grab my fucking little HP desktop pavilion, whatever the fuck he has, that's downstairs charging? No, he's going to want the Neuralink to be able to do that for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I realized this like I knew about it when I was a kid, but then it really dawned on me as I became an adult. People are lazy nowadays. Very lazy. They don't want to do this. Pandemic just proved it pretty much. Granted, there are cases where people actually could do anything, but it's like, oh, why get a job when I could just sit at home and collect unemployment, right? I'm like, well, yeah, sure, you can do that for a bit, but let's be real. Jobs are that's not gonna last forever. The jobs are gonna come back. And don't you want to do something with your life? Don't you want to, like, I don't know. The best thing I saw was when the pandemic happened. The first like 2 to 3 months, see how happy people were. I mean, not the people who lost their jobs, but like the people who were getting the unemployment money. They would go to like Home Depot and they'd build a deck or something like that. They'd have like a family game night or something like that. And like, yeah, I never got to spend time with my family or do stuff around the house. And those are the kind of people we need, not the people who will take that and just, all right, I'm going to drop it all in a video game or whatever and just sit there.
Well, you need the person that works at the drive-through. You need the people that work these types of
You
jobs to
do.
keep but it's also really hard because like, there are people that have such a I'm like, if I asked you what would your biggest fear in the world be about yourself, not exactly like I fear an asteroid, but about yourself.
Biggest fear about myself. Probably shortcoming, just falling short of my goal. That would probably be my biggest fear. Disappointing the loved ones around me, because when you put a goal out there, you have so many people who cheer you on and stuff. So for instance, as an example, I did a half marathon a month ago for a fantasy football punishment.
Were you the one they whatever covered in peanut butter?
No, that's Hunter.
Oh, I was about to say, damn it.
No, we can get you in touch.
I have questions, man. I don't want to know what that sensation or feeling's like. I make peanut butter slammers. I work at a gym, and that's a
Yeah.
protein shake. It's peanut butter slammers. Dude, I don't know how I can wear gloves, but I always get peanut butter on my hands. So when I'm sleeping, I smell peanut butter. I'm like, I couldn't imagine being
Man.
fucking covered in that shit.
Dude, apparently it took them like a couple hours to get it all off too in the shower. I thought you could just get a nice hot shower going and it would be fine, but like, no, that doesn't come off. Like they put layers of peanut butter. Like he was covered from head to toe.
Because you got to think they use peanut butter to get gum out of people's hair. So to get something that sticky out of someone's hair, peanut
Yeah.
butter. There's only you got to up the ante. It's like bringing in an evil to beat a bigger evil.
Yeah, you pretty much. How do you get peanut butter off your body? You probably need a big knife, I would assume. Just the same way you're making a sandwich. You probably need a knife to scrape it off at that point.
But how would you know like how many layers in are you going? Next thing you know, you look and you got a piece of like a scab of his on your freaking peanut butter sandwich.
I think you do what you gotta do.
I like what you're thinking though, because you're not wasteful. You're like, I gotta put it on some sandwiches and feed the homeless people. They need something, right?
Exactly. You gotta do what you gotta do. But that's awesome. Yeah, peanut butter hunt. Gotta love them. What we talk about that? What we
Your-
talk about before this?
The biggest fear.
Biggest fear. Yes, shortcomings. So the half marathon. So I got the notification in January that I had to do it in May. I was like, okay, that's fine. Now, granted, I'm not the most athletic type. I'm 215 pounds, 6 foot. I played golf.
You
with
look
that.
terrific.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, man. I got my toes out, got the hair out. We're living life, man. But so that was the biggest thing was like I would have to train every day. When I mean train, I mean I just ran an elliptical because I didn't want to hurt my knees. That was my biggest thing. And when the day of the half marathon came, I had 3 hours to run 13 miles. And I was doing good for like 6, 7. And then I hurt my leg. It wasn't my knee, it was like my actual leg. Like I just cramped up and didn't want to go anymore. Now I told everyone that. That was my biggest thing, was my biggest fear of the whole thing is I know my mental is pretty high. Like I disciplined enough where my biggest fear is like, okay, if my legs give out, I want to be able my brain to tell my legs to keep going. And I just couldn't get that to happen. So like this right leg here, like actually just wouldn't go forward anymore. It would go forward, but I couldn't run. So like, okay. So I was walking for 3, 4 miles and then I got some wind at the end to kind of keep going and finish it out. But
Wait,
my
did you
biggest
say you
fear-
got some wind?
got some wind. Yeah, dude. So we were running on the beach and it started storming out. And once the rain came down, like this was awesome. It was great. It had
This-
we had some waves crashing into me. So I was like,
I'm trying to think of like what's the best wind sound effect. It's like
yeah, I like yours better. Mine's not good. I got some allergies going on. So yeah, I'm definitely going with your wind sound effect.
you want to
there.
hear my helicopter?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like the movies when it's slow-mo over the I was a kid used to do that so much. People are like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's a helicopter.
Can you put that on a soundboard?
I don't have that fancy equipment, sadly. I could
Okay.
do it multiple times if you just want to
Yeah, we could
call me at like 1 o'clock. I'm like, Rob, we're doing a podcast. I need the helicopter sound. I'm on the phone.
Yeah. We can get we can get that going. That'd be awesome. We'll start a GoFundMe. We'll get we'll get a soundboard for you. And then once we get that, we'll get the helicopter going.
See, that's the thing though, isn't it? Is the fact of like you said your biggest fear, for instance, would be like falling short. That's the same thing for me. I think it's really easy for people to want to be remembered by at least one person or be remembered by a lot of people. But like the world of social media, the grasp of this, like you'd be surprised with how lazy people are considering the hustle mentality. I guess that's
Oh, yeah.
why like we find it so fascinating is when people are saying hustle, hustle, hustle. But if you were going to create a device that would not be popular now, but 200 years from now, generations that are living then would look upon that device as a savior and be known as a god to them. Would you want that, or would you? Everyone wants the instant fame, the thing they can actually bask in, because you don't know what's going to happen when you're gone. Are you going to be able to feel that, what it's like to be successful? And I'm like, it brings this theory because when you said Tesla, for instance. I feel like the government has technology 50 years past what we have, and then there's probably someone
Yep.
above them that has it like 500 years past. Did someone just go Google the best scientist during this time period, which is when Elon Musk was in college, and then
Yeah.
they just knock on his door? Here's the plans for Tesla because we just need to get this technology to the people because we're so far advanced from them. And then that's how he became this. I mean, a lot of people are not liking him a whole lot now. Like I watched his SNL thing.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, is this a thing to make fun of like Bitcoin? It looks like when you invite oh, the nerd gets prom queen or prom king. And then you realize that they're all doing that to make fun of you. That's what the SNL thing with Elon Musk felt like, where it was like they're literally having him on to make fun of his own shit. And he's just like, doesn't even notice it. And I'm like, does he look back on those videos like those bastards?
Yeah, he's so smart, but his social skills are just not there. I mean, if you watch any interviews with him, he's takes him a bit to get the point across. But I think he does that though because he's thinking so fast in his head, he just can't get the words out. Um, his whole Bitcoin, Dogecoin thing. There's some saying that so he's a big proponent. He loves his Dogecoin, and he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna get Tesla to use Dogecoin," and then he said, "We're gonna get Tesla to use Bitcoin," but now he rescinded that because he wants Bitcoin to become a cleaner energy kind of thing because it takes a lot of electricity power to use to generate these bitcoins, right? Um, so I don't know what he's gonna do. I don't think he cares. I mean, he legit. I think his only purpose in life is to just get people on Mars. Like that is his number one goal, and if he can do that, he's happy. Like he in an interview when he first started Tesla, was like I only started Tesla one because I like cars, and two so I can use the money from Tesla to fund the Mars project. And that was like Jesus, okay, that's smart. Sure, yeah, you got it. Um, what's your biggest fear though? I mean, you said shortcomings.
Yeah, I think it's just like not becoming what I feel like, maybe missing an opportunity. You know, it's so hard because the pressures of the world are showing you what you should be doing or what you can be doing, or all these people with like a lot of fancy cars and fast money. I'm like,
Yeah.
I just want to feel good in the soul, man. I don't know what that is. Like, I know people talk about like, oh, the soul or this type of like, I got to use my Reiki energy healing. I'm like, no, I don't want any of that shit. I just want to, I want to wake up and not have to worry. Like, I don't think I want to have to pay a bill. I want to, I want to feel like I don't have to try and be nice. You know what I mean? Like we all know when we go out into the world, it's like, I can't just like, this dude might be annoying, but I can't just call him that. Like, when do I get to the point where I'm like, so like, I don't give a shit. Like the Big Lebowski, the dude abides. Like, that's the reason why that movie started such a cult following, was the absence of like not giving a fuck. But it's so hard not to when you start realizing everything that's going on around you, things you can't control, things that have been. Social media is probably the biggest exposer of it all. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are so pissed off and ramped up all the time is because social media has thrown this curveball at you where it's like, this is everything you have not seen for the past 400 years. I mean, America is only a couple hundred years old.
We're young.
Yeah.
We're
And
really
I
young.
mean, we're doing pretty damn well for a couple hundred years old compared to that. We're like Japan's 5,000 years old and we're fucking a lot past them. But in some ways, they're past us too. They have more family values and things of that sort. When nowadays you're more than willing to a Craigslist ad of someone punching you in the balls for $20. Like that's fucking, that's nuts, literally.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it right on the head there, 100%. I mean, look at China. I mean, how old are they? They're like 6, 7,000 years old. Look where they've come, right? Look what they're doing right now. It's just crazy. But I think people need to. Let me backtrack that first. I'm a big proponent of not giving a fuck. And when I mean that, I don't say don't actually don't give a fuck. You need to care because there are some things where you do need to care. And there are some points in life where I think people let the little things eat at them, right? And I think social media just exposes that 10 times fold. It's like looking in a mirror, looking at another mirror, looking at another mirror. Like you legit see everything. So I used to be a big social media guy. Not anymore. I could care less. Because I know that's not the real. What I'm looking at isn't real, and I prefer the real deal. So that's why if there's like friends, ladies, guys, whatever, if you're looking to interact with them, like just go meet them, go talk to them. You can Tinder might work, sure. That's a good like starting point to getting to know someone, but you need to go out and interact with people. I don't know how old are you?
23.
Perfect. You fit in our category. Do you realize how people our age don't know how to interact with people anymore?
I
Like
don't
people,
think anybody after the pandemic right now, and like people, I've just seen so much like acts or types of I would say movements or something that someone does that are just straight out of a fucking movie. And I started to realize it's because you were locked down in your home. All you had to do was watch movies, and people are doing like movie type. He dropped the pickles and he's like with his hands all out. I'm like, what the, where am I? I feel like I'm in the damn Truman Show. I don't care if you, like you mentioned, I don't care, what people, I'm not going to be so influenced into my own life where I have to go feel like I have to adjust everyone else's. I don't feel the need to fix people, unless they want help or something. I'm more than happy to lend a hand. But if they don't want it, then I'm not going to try and force change onto someone.
Right.
But if someone wants to smoke crack, fucking let them smoke crack. I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
Are they doing their fucking job? Okay. What the fuck? The mayor of Washington, D.C., Marion Barrion, who was reelected after being caught on camera smoking crack. Like, he did his fucking job and it worked. They reelected him. That's how good he was. Like, fuck it. Like, I don't know if anything's fact. I don't know if anything's this. I'm just trying to figure out where the fuck do I go from here, considering that, like, when you're a kid, you don't consider all these things that are now going to be factors, the mental factors, the physical factors. When you get older, your knees start to click or your back, you got to make sure your posture, you're sitting up straight, you're
Right.
doing all these things. And I'm like, man, no one gives you a class in school to tell you how to be prepared for fucking life, man. That's the one course I would actually be paying attention in, rather than fucking staring out the window and wondering what happens if I had superpowers. What would I do?
Yeah, so I got to ask you this question now because this has been like on my mind for a couple years now, and I think high school as a whole is archaic. I think we need to change it up a bit. Now, do you believe I believe in having a couple different schools that specialize in different things, and then you have like high school is like your general life school, right? So maybe you go to the actual life like high school for 2 to 3 days a week, right? And you learning about society, like family values. I think family values are what drive people, right? So like you look at people who commit crimes and stuff, most of the time it's because they don't have a mom or a dad who's disciplining them. So they kind of just act out and do whatever they want. They need to install family values or discipline or whatever. And then depending on what you want to do with your career, I think you should have a specialized school where you can go to do stuff like that. So, auto mechanics,
Trade
anything
schools.
like trade school, yeah, like a trade school, but also more like oh, I want to be IT when I grow up or something like that. Okay, then we'll put you in an IT school. Or I want to be a CEO, I want to create my own business. Great, we'll put you in like an entrepreneurial school. My only issue with that though is they're kids. At the end of the day, people change their minds all the time. I mean, look at the people who go to college and change their minds. Are they too young to make their choices for themselves, or do we have to make the choice for them? I don't know. I'm not a kid specialist. I don't know what kids' brains do or what they want to do.
I think like, so my what I've said for a while was I think that there should be like a little a test or census test that should tell you, like, here's some categories of classes on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like to work with your hands? And then you
Right.
circle that, and then you kind of get to see what classes, like, let's put him in wood shop, let's not put him in a fucking reading class if he's a builder. You know what I mean? There's basic things about people. I believe there's inherent traits that are just instilled into you to, you like what you like. There are some people that like to fuck with their socks on. There's some people that don't like to fuck with their socks on. I'm not against either.
Yeah,
But
you want,
there's
man.
those initial things in people. Some like hot, some like cold. So I'm just wondering, and I think it started with the Luddite movement, where like they had all these industrial factory workers that were literally fighting machines, like these printing presses and things, because they were taking their jobs and they were feared they were going to lose everything. It's like the system is set up for factory workers. But we have so much technology that's doing so much for us where it's excluding that, and it's causing people to scavenge around like cockroaches looking for the easiest job and get lost in, sucked into it. Next thing you know, 40 years of your life is gone. And I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I feel like you should figure out what a person wants. And I don't think, that can change. That's what college, everything's so damn near impossible to figure out what you want to do in life, because I went to school for psychology, for instance. If you look up the psychology like classes now, there's clinical behavior, all these different things that are in subcategories of a major category that are all these subpar. So you can find your specific niche, which I think is important. We need scientists that are studying rodent fucking for sure.
Yeah.
That's a specific scientist that's assigned to do that. That's what they spent their life doing. They didn't know they were going to fall into that, which makes it awesome, but it also gives you so much stuff that you're trying to, like, people at the age of 10 now, 15 are planning out their fucking lives. Like, I need
Oh
to
yeah.
get married at 30. I need to
Yeah.
do this. I need to do that. I'm like, that's not how life is. That life doesn't have a plan. Shit falls in your lap or it never does. There's this whole entire aspect of trying to figure out who you're going to become unraveling. And then people look to a magic fucking 8 ball that's now evolved into a fortune cookie. And now people are looking on Reddit for answers to their own life. Like,
Oh,
if you ever read, like, if you ever sign up for Quora or whatever that site is,
oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
it'll send you the weirdest fucking emails, like, my 15-year-old son can't shit. And I'm like,
Huh.
I haven't shit in 52 days. I don't know why I'm getting this email, maybe because it relates to my situation, but I'm not 15 years old. But there's still things out there where people are like, they get sucked into it. You can get sucked into Reddit into some really freaking dark rabbit holes. And I think it's all because I can't tell if people are looking for entertainment or they're trying to look for answers. And sadly, the world is so filled with answers that aren't really answers. They're kind of just thoughts or what someone feels at that time. Same reason with my podcast. I've probably said shit I don't agree with in the past that I might agree with now, or maybe something vice versa. But it's a moment in time. It shows evolution, shows change, such as, like, we might convict someone of a crime and 40 years later still want them to be in jail, but it's like, have they changed? Have they changed themselves? Have they looked inside of themselves? I think people are inherently willing to put a quick fix on something, even though it's not necessarily the quick fix.
Yes, 100% on that. I mean, I the quick fix, while it may seem good in the short term, and I think humans are designed to. I don't. You're a psychology major, right? You said.
Not a psychology major. I went to school for psychology. I
Okay.
went to a fucking community college. I just took all my classes in psychology, and that's what I was going for. And then, well, really, it was
Yeah.
chemical dependency, and then I switched over to psychology, but I got fucking out of that, like, quick.
Yeah. I think the human response is when stress or a problem approaches a human, they immediately want to solve it in the quickest way possible, right? I think that's how your brain is designed. So you see this guy who's in jail for 40 years. Let's say, yeah, we can put him on parole, but that's more work we have to do. I don't care about this guy in jail. He
Electric chair.
killed, yeah, he killed a guy. Let him sit there, right? So it's like, but you got to take a look at that. Like, okay, has this person actually learned from his crimes? Can he benefit society again if we put him back out there? Some cases, yeah. In some cases, no. It's person to person. But I don't know. Like,
Well, it gets scarier when people say, like, I think our mentality of education has changed from when we were kids to where it is now. You know, school used to be like, you used to go to school, go to college, get a good job. Now, even college is not guaranteeing you a
no.
job. But here's the scary part about that is when you start realizing, after talking with so many academics and things of this sort, I started realizing that sometimes the colleges have been, their crimes are now being discovered. They will stop funding you or stop having you research something if it goes against an institution that's funding them. This is a big thing with the guy I'm hopefully going to get on this podcast, Josh Rogan, but he was talking about with China. They give a certain, like, $3.2 million to Harvard or to some school.
Oh
But
yeah.
then whenever they start researching something about China that the Chinese government doesn't like, they'll say, we're going to cut your funding if you don't stop this. And then they'll squash that research. So now research, if it affects society standards, if it affects maybe a certain nation standards that might be funding them, back funding them, that you don't know about. This is all fucking happening in academia, where it's like, if you notice kids nowadays, they say that they're woke.
Yeah.
It's not that they're woke. The fucking school taught them this way. So it's our education system that's kind of like, people hated the CDC not even a week ago. Now people are loving the
I love it.
CDC because they're lifting restrictions. And it's like people are so flip flop backwards. No one, it's whatever they want to. They started the fucking lockdowns and you're thanking them for fixing the problem that they caused. I'm not understanding why people are not following this. Like, it's fucking, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, I don't give a shit. But, like, if it starts affecting my life and then you start seeing it affect other people when people want to be cops or whatever, and they want to start telling people to put their fucking mask on or do this, I'm like, why
Yeah.
do you give a fuck? Are you doing what you can do? Then do what you can do, because that's all you can control. All you're doing is going to piss off everyone around you.
Yeah. Just do the best you can do, and that's it. Um, that was my senior thesis was on China. I graduated in Homeland Security, and that was my biggest thing. Was like we pretty much already lost the race to superiority with China like 20 years ago. They my argument was the United States, since we have elections every 4 years, we don't have a clear, concise path. So you can have, for instance, with Trump and Biden, very two different, two very different people, right? By Trump wanted isolationism. Biden is, I don't really know what he wants, to be honest. I haven't really looked into who he is as a character or what his policies are. I think he's just kind of just trying to keep the peace right now. But China, I mean, Xi Jinping is he's gonna be there for another 20, 40 years. Like he's not going anywhere. So they have the ability to really they can do whatever they want because they don't have any opposition from inside China, right? And they pretty much control their citizens. It's a surveillance state and a police state all the time. If you're a foreigner going in there, you're going to be watched, you're going to be stalked. So they're going to make sure they know where you are at every step. Some people are like, I don't care. Some people are very against that, do whatever makes you happy, right? But they can afford to do, I mean, just look at the NBA, right? Do you remember when the NBA
Oh,
that
dude, if
came
you,
out?
I know I should not be talking about this anymore because I've said it so much, but I'm so happy we get to do this because finally some person, yeah, the NBA, they were banned in China because of the tweet. And the funny thing was that they said 1.4 billion people, the Chinese people did not agree with the tweet that was posted, even though Twitter is banned in China. So it's like, where
Right.
the fuck are you getting your 1.4 billion? You start to realize that when the Chinese government boycotts something, that's them boycotting, not the people. It's them boycotting. It's different than our boycotts, where if we boycott something, and nobody even talks about when the was it Xi Jinping when he was over here, or General some other. There's so many names in that fucking book, but he criticized Biden for the George Floyd protests. He was like,
Oh
"Why
yeah.
the fuck are you doing this?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "What?" He goes, They're showing support for people," and he's like, you're letting them act like this? Like, what the fuck
Yeah.
are you doing? It's so foreign to them because they have such a totalitarian government. And the answer I always get when I say that is, well, that's China. We know about that. It's like, that's not a good fucking answer.
No,
What? Okay, then why are we still businessing dealing with them? They can,
exactly.
we have set up with all these years and generations for them to make a lot of our shit. So we're basically now by the balls, and they're winning a slow war by slowly starting to take over school districts, slowly starting to take over corporations down here. I don't know if we were making their masks or they were making our masks, but we were held by the balls at one point where it's like, all right, if you don't do this, then we're going to not give you your fucking masks. Then it's like, oh,
Right.
like you can't even talk about the lab thing. Everyone's like that. It
Yeah.
didn't come from there. You're being racist. It's like,
And you're a conspiracy theorist. Like what? like what? Do you remember so my everyone always has like their take on the pandemic in the beginning, like what this is what we really should have done. I'm like, all right, well, here, let me give my 2 cents on it. Really, what should have happened was I do believe a shutdown for a month was I think it's a good idea because China would not give anything. They're like, oh, this is fine. Like nothing's going on. Like, excuse me. Like we this could have had a mortality rate of like 15-20%. We just didn't know. Like once we got those numbers from China, and here's the thing, they give us the numbers. Are they true? We don't know. Like we don't, obviously they know what they're not going to do. Do you believe that there was a? Do you believe that they engineered COVID, or it was just something that came out of the lab, or it wasn't even anything in the lab? It was just like a pig and a bat got at it. Here's COVID.
I think it was being researched in a lab, and I think the funny thing was when was it who's that RuPaul, what was that dude's name that was on calling out Fauci for all that shit?
Oh,
Ron Paul or something like that.
Rand Paul.
Rand Paul. He was calling out Fauci, saying all this like research, like you were funding research in China, and he was like, "That's not you're incorrect." But if you look it up, his team was, especially research was for coronaviruses, for extreme viruses like that, and you start to look at it. What I start to think is I think China was already researching it, And then we were like, hey, we'll give you some money if you let us have some of that research too. It's the same thing with Operation Paperclip. We had the Nuremberg trials because we forgave the Nazi scientists for all their acts just so we could have their research.
Yeah,
We
come on
didn't
over. Help us out. Yeah.
It's like that's probably what we were doing. We were probably giving them a little bit of money just to suckle off the tit of whatever they were researching. And then it went bad. And now nobody wants to get incriminated on it. And I'm like, do you care about all this bullshit that's happened, or do you just want the truth? Because at this point, I just want the fucking truth. And if it seems like they're going to circle back to it, but they got to find a way to circle back without anybody asking questions. And why'd you say this and all this and all this and all this? And you kept saying double mask and all this. I feel like they passed the right answer and they got to find a way to come back to it. So I'm just waiting for that to fucking happen. But man, it's so confusing because, like I said, you're going to get people to the point where they get fed the fuck up and then they're going to stop fucking listening. And then now you're not leaving any incentive for these conspiracy talks to not be true. You know what I mean? It's so hard when you're questioning something if someone can call you racist or if someone can call you a conspiracy theorist. It's like, but, and then when you're right, or if you're right about something like that, then they're like, oh, well, I guess so. And it's like, no, fuck you. Say I'm right. Say I'm right. Say I'm right.
Yeah, it's, I mean, again, you're 23, I'm 24. Times have changed, man. It's a different world now, and I don't know where we're gonna go. I really don't. And the best thing I can tell people is just take care of yourself. Eat healthy, go to the gym, get yourself a nice job that makes you happy, pays the bills. Go find a lovely lady or husband, make some babies, create a family. Just do what makes you happy. Um, I mean, that's if China doesn't own us in 20, 30 years. But, that's,
I
you know,
think there's a big push for people wanting to know the information, but I just feel like the reason why it's been kept from us for so long is because I don't think we're ready to handle it. It's the same thing with Area 51. If you found out what was going on in there, you
oh,
know,
dude,
it's a big shocker to a lot of people's system. We love the idea of a mystery, but when we solve it, we're not exactly happy with the answer.
no, no, they just want to know. It's curious cat. They just want to know. But it's like, oh, yeah, well, we were doing some messed up stuff going on there. Like, oh, I don't want to know about that. Are you a big proponent of aliens? I feel like nowadays, if you don't believe in aliens, I don't know. Like the evidence is just out there.
I mean, I think we've all seen the extraterrestrial or unidentified flying object material that they showed in the COVID bills and all that. But
Yeah.
I've heard on this podcast 3 detailed alien experiences,
Yeah.
and they don't know each other. They've been hundreds and hundreds of episodes apart from each other, but they've explained the exact same thing in different locations where I'm like hearing the story and I'm like, oh my God, like it's the exact same. They all fucking match up to seeing these 3 balls of light in the sky. And as you would walk around it, it's like looking at my hand where you could see the dimension of it.
Yeah.
And they talk about that, seeing it in the sky, like it was 2-dimensional. And I was like, I can't, I just, at this point, I'm fucking all in. But at this point, I'm like, there's so much bigger things out there around us where I'm like, I'm just happy my fucking lungs work.
Yeah.
Like people take that shit for like the fact that you can still smell, the fact that you just don't wake up one day and you're not fucking blind. Like we just take all this shit hoping that it works and expecting it to work. And one day you might not know when it's not going to.
I used to be a kid that was like takes everything for granted, right? And then once you start seeing people around you die, you're like, oh, okay. Like there is a guarantee that you can not wake up the next morning, or you wake up and your legs don't work or whatever. So that's ever since that happened, my mentality is just do the most you can in a day that makes you satisfied. Do like not as much, that like the hustle mentality, right? But like do just do things that make you happy. So like if your room's a mess, go clean it.
Eh,
Just do that. And if you got nothing else to do, then relax. Do whatever.
Well,
Go for a
don't
run or whatever.
don't set your expectations of success based on some fucking motivational person on YouTube. If you fucking get up out of bed and put a shirt on and you feel like that's an accomplishment, then good on you. That's a fucking accomplishment, man. It's, you gotta, like when I do like someone tells me I just did this and this and this and this, and I'm like, all right. And I'm like, what have I done today? Well, I mean, I work out at 4 o'clock in the morning and then I fucking
Yeah.
get done at 6 and then I get my day fucking started. And I'm like, it's just so normal to me where I'm like, that's a fucking accomplishment that I've finished my gym workout or I did this. And people got to post up a picture of like, that gets me, man. When I see someone go like at the gym lifting the weights and I'm like, did you just fucking get there and take a picture? Because I don't see any veins popping out of you. So that means you haven't lifted anything. And I'm like, I just start looking at it like, do you want people to think that you're happy and successful, or do you actually want to be happy and successful? And what do you measure successfulness on? If you can make yourself a fucking sandwich, if you can get a glass of water, if you can take a pee and be able to flush a toilet, hopefully you're flushing, but you're able to do these simple, basic things that people take for granted, then in my eyes, you are successful.
Yeah, I would say so. People, how do you think we got there? I mean, to the point where, like, why is it as a human you want to show off to everyone, right? Like, oh, I went to the gym, I ordered a smoothie bowl, look how good I am. Like, why? What drives people to do that?
Something that's I think it's just been instilled upon us for since we were created. I mean, throwing a boar down on the table to show off that you just killed this thing during a hunt,
Yeah.
so everyone in the village can eat. Like that's just basic shit. I think it's this idea that you want the community admiration. And I think we can get there again, but I don't think it has to be this bragging right. I think it needs to be this thing of like more people connected, more positive emotion and feeling that we give off in our communities. And sadly, the world's not really about communities anymore. We're all about building up cults or some shit where you're like, I'm the leader. There's no other person. That's the issue with cults is there has to be like a leader. There has to be someone that's giving all this information and looked to as a valued source. And so the people revolt or the people do something that he says that ends up hurting them all. And it's like we need to build communities. We need to establish a voice for everyone, not just put someone on a higher pedestal expecting them to fix all of our fucking problems. Unless you're Marion Barry, then you could probably fix a lot of shit.
It's why. Have you talked to a cult leader yet?
I've talked to a few ex-cultists, not cult leaders, but
Okay. How's that?
actually I mean, it's from ex Jehovah's Witnesses to ex Scientologists to a dude who started a cult in Honduras, Mexico. That was a good friend of mine. He doesn't
Okay.
want to talk about it though. I'll get him to talk about it
Fair.
eventually.
Yeah, that's
Um,
some time.
you just need some guidance sometimes. You need something to look forward to. Like that's why I think religion's important. You need something to get you to the next day. A lot of people don't have something. And I think that's where the world's at right now is that we're all looking for something that's going to make us get to the next day, make us want to wake up and get out of bed, make us want to do something. You need motivation in your life or you're not going to have any want or will to do anything. Why the fuck do I start a podcast? Why do I want to do a podcast? Why? Because I want to talk about this shit. That's the incentive is getting shit to talk about, to get
Right.
build something. I don't know. It's that aspiration. Why do you want to go plant and dig a hole or something? Because you want to plant something or you want to do something. Why do you want to go downstairs and get food? Either you're fucking bored or you're hungry.
Right.
There's these things that have like it's like a rat in a tunnel going to the cheese. You get a prize. You need the
Yeah.
prize.
Yeah. People need goals in their life. What I've noticed is people who a lot of kids I've talked to. So I have, oh God, how many? I have 6 nephews and nieces. They're
Jesus
all, yeah,
Christ.
no, dude. They all range from age 4 to like 8. I think the oldest is 11 now. And I talked to them like, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And they're like, half of them were like, I want to be a YouTuber. I'm like, oh my God,
Yes.
it's happening.
Go to my Teespring and buy my
Yeah.
merch.
Like, oh my God, it's happening, bro. But a lot of people that I've encountered with, they want to do these things. They want to start a podcast. They want to be successful, whatever success is in their eyes. And I'm like, all right, well, what's stopping you? Like, I don't know. But do you need my approval? Like, I feel like everyone needs some another person to step and be like, yeah, this is a good idea. You can do it. Is it a risk thing? People think start a podcast is a risk, or I think it's scared. I think a lot of people are scared to do these things, and then once they do the first one, like, oh, this isn't terrible, right?
I was so scared to be on the internet because I didn't want to. I was so afraid what people would think. And then after like the 200th episode. I was like, what the fuck do I give a shit? Like,
Exactly.
no, do I need? You need validation. That's why you suck dick. If you don't have validation, you suck dick. So I'm like, literally, like that's why people do it, because they got daddy issues or they got mommy issues or they got whatever the hell. So I'm like, everyone's looking for validation. How do you want it? Do you want to be validated by people or do you want to be validated by yourself?
Yeah, I think people need more personal responsibility in their life. Like they need to just go out and do something. Just make the best of it, you know? You only get, from what I know of, you only get one life. That'd be pretty cool.
though.
Get a second one if you die. That'd be really cool, right?
Imagine you get a second, like they bury you and then you wake up.
Yeah.
Takes like 6 hours and you're just like, fuck. Oh my God, I'm underground. Or they oh my God, if they cremate you, you're in the fucking oven. Like, oh, wait.
Here's some tapping on the oven door. Please wake me up.
That's gotta freak so many people out in the crematorium. Is like when they're walking, did I just hear something? And you're fucking like looking around.
Did you? My favorite thing to do is go on Reddit when I'm sleeping, like about to go to bed, and look up like these ghost story things. And there was this video of a guy, a security dude, who's working at a cemetery overnight, and there were just like these loud ass bangs in this mausoleum that he was guarding. And he booked it. He got in his car, he drove off, and the next day he had a follow up. You could see like a little handprint on like one of the tombs there. I was like, Jesus, dude, that's scary shit, man. I don't know if I could do that. I'll be honest. I like looking at that stuff and hearing about it, but they're like, oh, well, why don't you go ghost hunting or whatever? I'm like, one, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't know. I feel like with my energy, it's just like they're not gonna want to come out and say hello. You know, they're scared of me. I'm scared of them. Let's be real with each other. But I don't know. I think people need to, just in general, just do what makes you happy. Just go out there and do something.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's kind of the point. But what makes you happy is the question everyone's looking for, or answer everyone's looking for.
Yeah, I just wish schools and just like not government officials, because I don't believe people should be dependent on the government. I think you need to be dependent on yourself and your family. But I wish there'd be like more tools to help you out. You know, give you a little guidance, especially when you're a kid. Um, I mean, my nieces and nephews now, they grew up with iPads and everything, right? That's like
So
normal thing.
scary.
It is scary, right? Like I had my niece Snapchat me this morning. She's like 7. I'm like, oh my God, like what are you doing? It's like, okay, all right, this is new. This is new. Sure thing. But like when I was 7, you know, I didn't have a MySpace, but like Facebook was a couple years after that. I was like 10 and I had a Facebook. Do you remember when Facebook came out?
Yeah, in like 2005.
Yeah. It's wild, man.
Fucking every kid was on there like tagging each other in posts. I get those flashbacks from like 15 years ago where
Yeah,
I'm like, Jesus Christ, this girl's
right.
hot too. But back in the day, she used to be ugly and she used to tag me and shit. And I'm like, hey, how you doing now? Like you're flying on jets everywhere and doing all this shit. Do you mind if I hitch a ride?
My father always taught me, just be nice to everyone, even the fat girls, is what he said. Because eventually those fat girls will turn into your your CEOs or your brides, whatever. I'm like, I was like, I just sure. I didn't really care at the time, but I'm looking at it now. It's crazy to see people that you've grown up with and which path in life they've taken. I've had friends who went down the drug route who were just like, all right, well, weed makes me happy. I'm like, sure, as long as you're not killing anyone, I don't care what you do.
Girl I went to school with won a fucking Grammy.
Good for her.
Yeah, she's my age too. I'm like, fuck.
That is awesome.
I'm
Shit.
lying in bed with fucking sweatpants and a fucking shirt on, and I'm just like lying up looking at my ceiling, wondering what life is and cringing about all the moments in 8th grade. And I check my fucking Facebook and see that this girl's like, I just won my first Grammy for this music. And I'm like,
You're still young. You're still young.
I'll get popular. I'll do an OJ and get on TV.
Ooh, well, well, that's one way. That is one way. You could do that.
Successful is what you make it. And let's
That's
just say,
right.
I would
Right.
like to be 45 years old doing, "Hey, Twitter world," when I do my videos like OJ does on his Twitter.
Good morning, Twitter world.
Good morning, Twitter world. He gives life advice.
He does.
And it's like
Does.
scary motivation where there's a coldness to him.
Yeah. So do you think OJ? Well, all right, let's start here. Do you think OJ killed her? Let's start there.
I'm going to think if you're in that heat of that moment and someone that you just loved so much cheated on you with someone that you knew, you'd
Yeah.
be so angry you probably wouldn't think rationally. Now, did he grab a knife or was it already in his hand? I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't know either. Um, that was my. I had to write a paper on OJ for school. That was like my big midterm project when I was a sophomore in college, and my argument was like, he did it. The evidence is just laid out all there, but I'm like, did he himself, OJ, do it, or was it like a CTE effect taken over? Was it his emotions taken over? I don't know. And then
Can't do that.
no, that detective, by the way, was it Furman, Mark Furman? Did you hear some of the stuff he said when he was searching the
I
house?
never saw the trial.
Okay, he dropped like the hard R probably like 20 times in a minute, like looking for evidence in the house, dude. It was like, so that was like the whole point of the trial was like, well, this detective is like clearly out to get OJ. Like, it's not even fair. That's why he was acquitted. So like the evidence is there, but it was all, one, it was contaminated, and two, the detectives and LAPD were just like, in that mindset.
What do you do? Just
Exactly, right? What do you-
I didn't see that in the David Schwimmer version.
No.
Look, David, we've been talking for a bit. I want to get Riley in here too. I'm guessing he's still in the room standing.
He is. He's in the next room. I can go get him real quick if you want.
Tell Riley we're doing a double podcast.
Mr. Trudell, come on in, buddy.
David, is there anything you want to promote besides the Plunge podcast?
Of course, you can check out other Plunge podcasts like Justified, where we every other week we interview someone who we find interesting. I'm sure we'll find you on there pretty soon, good sir.
I'm not that interested.
I think you're interesting. I think our conversation just started, so I would love to dive into who you are of a person more. You can also check out if you like Dungeons and Dragons. You can check that out. It's a little raunchy, not gonna lie. So if you have any kids, I wouldn't recommend that show. But if you like 18 and up Dungeons and Dragons, you can check that out. That comes out usually every other week, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But
You're staring up like you're looking at a calendar.
yeah, so every time and this is a weird thing about me. Every time I think, I like stare up at, like I look up and I try to like,
I do the same shit.
yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
If you ever
Like,
see me like look around my room, there's just fucking posters and a Vincent Van Gogh Starry Night thing that I have up where I just look around my fucking room.
yeah, there's just a ceiling fan right here. But like people will criticize me all the time, like, dude, why aren't you looking at me in my eyes? I'm like, dude, I'm trying to think of something. Like, I don't know why. Your eyes are dreamy, don't get me wrong, Mr. Tom Holland, but like
People get so mad at the whole like not looking in eyes for eye
right?
contact when they're talking to them. I'm like, some people just, I don't know. It seems aggressive sometimes.
Does, especially like when you just you don't blink at all, you just stare right in their soul. That can be aggressive. I don't know where Mr. Trudell went, by the way. I think he's getting dressed.
We'll get him back in
Look,
here.
he wants to look good for you. He wants to look good for you. But it's been an honor talking to you, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come on here first and foremost. I'd love to get you on Justified pretty soon. We'll work out some details if you're interested.
I'm definitely interested. And thanks for listening to this episode out of the Blank Podcast.